February 3rd, Mel Trotter.
Welcome to 365 Christian Men, where every day we aim to inspire and encourage with real-life stories about men.
On this date, in 1900, Mel was appointed Superintendent of Grand Rapids Rescue Mission. He ran the mission for 40 years and helped start 67 other rescue missions across the country. Here's how his story started.
What seems impossible with men is entirely possible with God. Mel Trotter pushed open the door to his little house. What was left wasn't much of a home. He had drunk most of it away until all that was left was a cold shell. His marriage, too. This time, his drunken episode had lasted 10 days. Now, the house was strangely quiet. There sat his wife, Lottie, rocking back and forth with their 2-year-old in her arms. Mel stepped a little closer, but the baby didn't move, and there was a strange color to his skin. The boy was dead. Mel fell to his knees. A guttural cry rose from so far deep inside of him, it sounded as if it was coming from someone else. He was a slave to liquor, and now he felt like a murderer. "I'm anything but a man," he groaned. "I can't stand it, and I won't stand it. I'm going to end my life," he thought. "That's what I'm going to do." But death meant facing God, and he didn't have the courage for that. Emotion drove Mel from the house, but he couldn't outrun the painful reality of what had happened. When he returned, his wife led him into the little room where she had laid her son in a tiny white casket she had made herself. She looked at him and said, "Promise me you'll never take another drink again, Mel Trotter. Promise me." Mel put his arms around her. He paused and then said, "I'll never touch liquor again as long as I live." She nodded and prayed for him. He wanted to keep his word, but deep down he knew he was a slave to the devil. He made it through the funeral before having his next drink. But not 2 hours after his child was put into the grave, he stumbled home dead drunk. Mel left his wife. He had nothing left. For a while, he wandered the streets of Chicago. One night, staggering along Van Buren Street, Mel headed for Lake Michigan. There, he would plunge into its icy cold waters and eternal damnation. He had lost everything and everyone. He had tried to stay sober, but he had failed again and again as usual. Not even his fear of meeting God mattered now. The drink had him, and nothing could be done about it. He winced as his bare feet, numb now from the snow, began to pulse. He had sold his shoes for one more drink. Mel stumbled down the road and then looked up as he passed the Pacific Garden Mission. The doorkeeper invited him in and took him to a chair along the wall where he could lean back and not tumble out of it. People were singing worship songs, and there was a man standing up front. Mel looked up, and the man locked gazes with him. He stopped the singing and told everyone to bow their heads. "Oh God," he prayed, "please save that poor soul." The man then talked about how he used to be a drunk too, but how the Lord had saved him. At the end, he told those gathered there to raise their hands and let Jesus know they wanted to make room for him. Mel raised his hand, and then he rushed to the front. The man said to him, "Jesus says, 'All those the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me, I will never drive away.'" John 6:37. Suddenly, Mel remembered the story he had heard so many times growing up. He saw Jesus carrying the cross, men spitting at him and shoving a crown of thorns on his head. And for the first time, Mel understood that Jesus had done that for him. He saw Jesus starting up the hill, falling beneath the weight of the cross. He saw Jesus willingly give up his life for him. That glimpse of Jesus was one he would never forget. And from that point forward, Mel never touched another drop of liquor. Are you, like Mel Trotter, facing a seemingly impossible situation? Why not invite God's strength into your life right now? What seems impossible with men is entirely possible with God.
Hello, I'm Michael Borner, and today's story is about Mel Trotter, a Christian minister who was a remarkable example of how God can turn a broken past into a powerful tool for serving others. Mel's life changed forever when his wife held their 2-year-old son dead in her arms. Just unimaginable. And despite his promise to quit drinking, it expired just hours after the funeral. But God's grace transformed Mel, and instead of an icy suicide in Lake Michigan, the Pacific Garden Mission brimmed with warmth, hope, and a salvation message that turned Mel into an extraordinary servant leader who spent the next 4 decades rescuing people just like him. Mel helped start 67 more centers of love and hope with a famous sign on the door, Jesus Saves. And I hope Mel's transformational story challenges us to allow God to use our pain and our broken past to fuel eternal gratitude in Christ and to compel us to serve others in innovative, compassionate ways. Let Mel's story challenge our lives to have a sign on the door that draws others in need to Jesus.